The twist and turn Barbie was very popular and she did come out in 1967, but this is what brings me to the 1967 standard Barbie. For the time that she was manufactured and released, she was actually the budget version of the twist and turn Barbie. But what's really funny is that today in the collector market, these standard Barbies tend to be far more expensive. Hello there friends, it's Ian here from the Nostalgic Toy Archive and welcome back to my channel. Today I am super excited to share with you one of my most recent acquisitions in my collection, and that happens to be this beautiful 1967 mod era standard Barbie. Now, I am not much of a mod collector, but I could not pass this doll up, and I've always really loved the classic twist and turn Barbies, which we will talk about in greater detail in another video. But these standard Barbies, in my opinion, are just as beautiful. And this box artwork, honestly, it is some of my favorite that I have ever seen from the vintage and mod era of Barbie. Now, before we dive deeper into the history of the standard Barbie, I do feel that it would be very fitting to talk to you about a pivotal year in Barbie's history, and that is the year 1967. Up until 1967, we had these vintage era Barbies. Now, this happens to be a very early 1960 number 3 ponytail Barbie, but all the way up until 1966, we still had Barbies in the market that were using this vintage facial sculpt. That all changed, however, in 1967 when we were introduced to the fabulous twist and turn Barbie. The twist and turn Barbie was the first Barbie doll to have an entire new facial sculpt, and she also came with really beautiful rooted lashes. So as you can imagine, she was a big change for Mattel and for the entire world of Barbie. The twist and turn Barbie was very popular and she did come out in 1967, but this is what brings me to the 1967 standard Barbie, because the twist and turn Barbie was actually not the only Barbie doll that was in the market. For the time that she was manufactured and released, she was actually the budget version of the twist and turn Barbie. The twist and turn Barbie has a waist that turns and legs that bend, and she also has those really beautiful rooted eyelashes, whereas the standard Barbie is actually on a traditional straight-legged midge Barbie body, and she has no rooted eyelashes at all. She was basically the budget-friendly version of the twist and turn doll, but what's really funny is that today in the collector market, these standard Barbies tend to be far more expensive than the twist and turn Barbies. I honestly don't know why that is. My educated guess would be that maybe there were less of the standard dolls produced, therefore they are a little bit more rare, but they also just happen to be widely popular among collectors. This gal is practically mint. I think she is incredibly gorgeous, and I actually really love her on this straight leg body. I do want to share some greater detail with you about this doll, particularly the straight leg body. Now, this is, for the most part, the same body mold as the midge Barbie bodies that came out in 1963 and were in the market until about 1964, 1965. But there is something that is a key differentiator, and that happens to be in the coloring of the vinyl. Once we get to the mod era dolls, they were colored very differently than the vintage era dolls. These mod era dolls have much more of a pink and peach complexion, and their coloring is just far more vibrant than the vintage era dolls. I say this because it's incredibly important to be aware of this, especially when purchasing a standard Barbie, because more often than not, I can't tell you how many times on eBay I have seen sellers selling a quote-unquote standard Barbie, but she's actually been put on an older midge Barbie body. And that's actually not correct, because even though it's the same body sculpt, it will be way off in coloring. Now, obviously I'm not going to do this either, but if we were to remove her head, we would actually also find that her neck knob is a little different than the vintage neck knob that you will see on that older body. Now, what also sets the standard Barbie apart from the twist and turn Barbie is that the standard Barbie does not have those signature rooted eyelashes like you will find on these twist and turn dolls. The standard Barbie that I have here today happens to be a first wave, first edition. This was the version that came out in 1967, and this boxed version was sold until about 1968. This doll and her box did go through about roughly 2 transformations, but I am particularly drawn to this box. I think it's absolutely beautiful. On the front of the box, we have an absolutely beautiful graphic of a standard Barbie. This one happens to be the Summer Sand doll. She has very, very light blonde hair, and I love the rose print in the background of this box. It's really pretty. Now, one thing that's really interesting to note about this box is that on the side of the box, we do have graphics. But what's really interesting to me is that the graphics that you will see on the side of this box are all earlier era graphics from the 1965-1966 American Girl Barbie era. I am a little caught off guard as to why we have the American Girl era Barbie artwork on this box. And my speculation is that it probably has to do with budget. Since this was a budget-friendly doll, I assume that Mattel probably did not want to put a lot of work or effort into creating and sourcing new artwork. So that is my estimated guess as to why we have repurposed artwork from the American Girl era, because a lot of these fashions from 1966 were still available in 1967 when this doll came out. So a few more details to know about this standard Barbie. She was in the market from 1967 to 1971. In 1970, she was sold in a different box with a different swimsuit. Here's another fun fact. In 1971, in the last year that this doll was produced and sold in the market, her eyes were changed from the side-glancing eyes to the center-facing eyes. I believe this was done because that happened to be the same year that the Malibu Barbie was released, and she was the first doll in the entire Barbie line to no longer have those demure side-glancing eyes. Instead, she's looking at you straight on. For that reason, you might find that version, that 1971 version of the standard Barbie, a little bit more expensive in the secondhand market, just because that was only in production and in the market for 1 year. So as I have mentioned before, I am not a huge mod collector yet. I'm getting more and more drawn into these mod era dolls though, because they're just so cute, and next to the vintage dolls, definitely my favorite era of Barbie. But there is one last piece of trivia I will leave you with today, and that is that there is a version of this doll that circulates out there in the secondhand market that does have a blue version of this swimsuit, and she is far harder to come by. The standard Barbie was also produced in various gift sets, and my research shows that in the 4 years she was in the market, there were about 3 gift sets that were produced, one of them actually being one of the rarest gift sets ever created for Barbie. That concludes today's video all about this 1967 edition of the standard Barbie. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoy collecting standard Barbies and which ones you have. I would love to know. And consider subscribing and following my channel if you would like more vintage and mod era Barbie content. My name is Ian, and my channel is the Nostalgic Toy Archive. Definitely consider subscribing, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.